Have you ever wanted to make games? Well, you probably have because you've clicked on this video. So I'm going to teach you how to be a Roblox developer. So the beginning, I'm going to be doing some boring stuff. So I'm going to get over this. You got to open it up and click on base plate to start with scripting. Right click to move the mouse around. And I'm only using my right click right now, just dragging my mouse around. And scroll wheel moves you forward and backward. But you can also use W, S, A, D. So it's kind of like regular Roblox, except you have more of your kind of flying around. To make parts, you can use this, and you can make blocks, spheres, wedges, and cylinders. This is the terrain editor. This is where you can get some free models, which normally shouldn't use because a lot of them do have viruses. These, so let's say you spawn in a part, you can use the select, move, scale tool to change its size, move tool to move it. Select, you can just kind of click and drag, and rotate to rotate your part around. You can also use the material for brick and color for colors. So material, you could say you want a force field. You can also edit the properties of a part more precisely using the property tab. The property tab and the explorer tab are over here. The explorer tab is where you can see the hierarchy of all of the things in your game. So these are all services, and I can get more into depth in later videos, but right now you're only gonna have to worry about Workspace. Whenever you click on a part, it'll bring up something in the properties tab, and you can change the color from here. You can change if it has a shadow, you can change the color, you can change material. So what if you want to actually start coding, which is probably most of everyone's goal to learn. We're not going to do anything that will affect the game just yet, and we're going to lay down the basic bricks of coding. So in the output, this is where all of your errors and things, it is the most helpful thing. If you make an error, it will normally show up here and it will show you the line. It is probably one of the best things to have. So whenever you are wanting to add something to your game, you can click on this button right here, and this will add it to the workspace, which is everything you see here. Everything, so the base plate is the workspace. And we can add a part, we can add folders, we can have tools. We're gonna add a folder just to start organization earlier, and we're gonna name it scripts. Normally you wouldn't put your scripts in the workspace, but this is right now just a beginner script. So, and then you're just going to click that add button and add a script. There's tons of other things you can add, but right now we're just doing scripting. And you're going to see print hello world, and you can just delete that. All that does is print something in the output, which I will teach you right now. So you can retype print. You don't have to do print hello world. There are many different types of values you can print, and in Lua, there are 3 main values. We have strings. We also have instances, so numbers, and Boolean. Notice how I put 2 quotations around strings. Whenever you're doing a string, like hello world in that earlier thing that we just deleted, there was 2 quotations around it. And whenever you do that, that is a string, so you can put anything. You can put numbers in anything, and it is just a string, so you can say ooga booga, like that. And so if we were to go here and run it, in the script menu, you can run it, you will see that in the output, it says ooga booga 3210. So that is the first value whenever printing. Printing is pretty basic. You don't use printing as the functionality of your game. You normally use it to check if your scripts work, but you can also use warn, which is the exact same thing. It just comes in a different color, so will come in yellow, which is used in plugins sometimes if it recognizes that something bad is going on. You can also print Booleans, which are true and false values. You don't just use true and false values or strings for you don't use those just for printing things. So you can use integers and print out 1, 2, 3, 2, and whenever you run it, of course, it's gonna print out 1, 2, 3, 2 without strings. So that is the most basic sense of what values are. So we'll go and look for these values in our base plate. So we're gonna look for strings, integers, and Boolean. Brick color is another value in itself, but cast shadow, whenever you see these checkboxes, that's a Boolean value. So that's false, and this would be true. Color is another value of its own. Material it would be a string, so ice. Force field, I think it also could be another value of its own. Reflectance would be an integer. Transparency would be an integer. We also have name, and that is definitely a string because you can put whatever you want in that. Workspace would actually be another part, so it's not necessarily a value, but it is. I did not mean to do that. Okay. And there's tons, like these are all true, false, and there are so many different types of values in each part that you can change, but most of them fall under strings, booleans, or integers. So our next thing is variables, and these are also very important. So whenever defining a variable, you first need to put local, and that is because of scope and if the script can see it. You always put local. You can do part is equal to, but is it just a good habit to do local? And then after that, you type the name. So we're gonna call it local part. There are plenty of things you cannot call variables, so you cannot call them true, I think. You can't call them true, you can't call them print. Basically, you can call them anything but a few select things. Most of the time, you can call them anything. You can say game 1, 2, 3. Cannot say game itself though, so game, gam, you can say anything you want. You can call your variables anything you want. So right now we're just gonna call it part for simplicity. And we want our part to be a string value to tell us what we want to name our part. So let's say we want to name our part first part. So that would be our part, and let's say we wanted to print the part, or let's call this a string because that might be a little bit misleading. But we cannot call it a string, so we'll do my string. So local my string is equal to first, and we'll replace this with string. So local my string is equal to first string, and then we can print my string. So basically, this is storing this. Local is just something we just put in front of the strings, and it's a good habit. You technically could do this, but putting local in front of your strings is just a good habit, and that is just why we put local. And then this is storing the name we want to store this to. So let's say we wanted to change it, and we wanted to change it to second string, but keep it to the sort to the same variable as my string. We can do that and then print the string. So what it will do is the script will run through the first line. It will say, okay, this value is storing first string, and then it's gonna print first string in the output, and then it's gonna say, well, now it's changing the value of this variable to second string, and when it prints it, it's gonna say second string. So it goes by a line. It's like whenever you read, you'll read this first, and then you'll read this, and then you'll read this. But there will be no delay because scripts run like a snap. They're just so quick. So if you want to add a little bit of a wait, you can use the, I guess you could say, function wait, and you can, let's say you want to wait 1 second, and then it will print out. Just wait 1 second, and you're just telling the script, just wait for a second. And the input is always seconds, so just make sure you know that. Whenever you click play, it will print first string and second string, and it will print second string after a second, which it didn't really look like that there because it was loading, but it does. So that is something kind of important to know for scripting, and that is it for the first episode of scripting tutorial. I think you guys would like it if I continue to do voiceovers of scripting tutorials, and tell me if you learned something or if I was just completely weird and didn't make any sense.